Hey everyone, welcome back with Bino Mac. Today we're going to continue, we're actually going to start a new playthrough of, Unlicensed Thursday. And yes, there is some screen tearing. I didn't really have time to record for this episode, unfortunately, just time constraints. But I will promise that the next episodes are all, proper and prim and proper. It's just kind of an OBS studio type issue where it's just a pain in the butt, we'll just say that. That said, though, I do apologize for it. But that said, we're going to start a playthrough of Nicktoons. I actually thought it was Nicktoons, but apparently this whole time it's actually Nickelodeon Kart Racers. And, we're doing the first cup here, which is the Stoop Cup. And, of course, this isn't a solo playthrough, as you can see here. I'm joined by, my main man here, Superlou64.
Smashing.
Indeed. Unfortunately, though, he's not in this game. But, I think today's episode, we're just going to get right into it, with our question of the day. So, question of today is going to be, what was your favorite Nicktoon show? Or, sorry, for the purpose of this video, because it's not Nicktoons Kart Racing, I'll correct myself here. What is your favorite Nickelodeon show? I got a few ideas, but why don't you start off with us, Subaru?
I would have to say I'm Real Monsters, Like all the main characters have a good dynamic. Art style is nice. Actually fitting for grotesque monsters instead of, infants. Like other Krusty Soup shows where they just animate regular humans like that. It was decently funny at times.
Yeah, I remember there was a few good episodes that I watched from it. And I believe so he also was the same illustrator, I don't know if that's even what you could call it for this instance, animator, for, was it Rugrats, I'm assuming, as well as Told by Ginger?
Rugrats, Wild Thornberries, and Ginger.
Wow, this guy was a lot bigger than I thought, honestly.
They also animated on the, I believe, first 3 seasons of The Simpsons.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I do feel like back in the day when you had the hand drawn animation, there was, it's not my favorite. It is a pretty ugly art style for the most part, in my opinion. Even though I do think it actually works pretty well for the Wild Thornberries. But, yeah, I mean, just a lot of shows had their unique... Ooh, bless you, buddy. Everybody had their own unique art styles and stuff like that, and I feel like that's just not really the case these days, always. And if they are, it's... I don't know. I feel like it's just not always... Jeez, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I feel like there are some shows that do have their own unique art style, but I feel like it doesn't always stick. I feel like if you want unique art styles, you kind of got to go to YouTube and stuff like that for things like that these days, in my opinion. A lot of it looks like Flash kind of stuff going on these days, though. But my favorite ones, Nickelodeon shows, I mean, there's a few of them. Honestly, there's SpongeBob. It's always a classic. That's pretty much everybody's favorite. Avatar: The Last Airbender has got to be my favorite one. I think that's probably my favorite show of all time. If I'm being honest, and I'm talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've got to give Korra a fair shake, but from what I've seen when I was younger and stuff, I was not a big fan. But, when you're living up to the high standards of Avatar, it's tough to live up to the standards that were set from that show, you know what I mean? But, I feel like there's still a few other good ones, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, a very good show, like one of the first big animated, 3D animated TV shows, I feel like. And, I've never been a big fan, but honestly, there's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which were pretty popular, and those early shows were not like a Nickelodeon exclusive thing or anything like that, but that said, honestly now, like, all the shows are, Nickelodeon owned stuff on Paramount and stuff. But they definitely had a lot of really good shows back in the day.
Yeah, that is actually kind of funny that in All-Star Brawl, they used the 80s designs for the Ninja Turtle characters, even though that was the one era that I don't think they owned.
Well, obviously they had to. I think they own the entire franchise at this point. They had to own it, or else they. I mean, they definitely would have gotten sued if they didn't own it. You know.
Yeah, I guess I sort of word that differently. I guess the only one that never originally aired on Nickelodeon. It's like the whole weird thing with Garfield in that game, where they kind of just added in because Paramount was making a Garfield movie and they had the rights.
That's actually pretty interesting. I didn't know that.
I think it released like a year or two ago. I know Chris Pratt was in it for some reason.
He's the same guy who voices Mario in the Mario movies, right?
Does that question even need to be asked? That's like one of the most infamous reveals on the internet, probably.
That's crazy. I mean, I don't even know what he's from or where he came from, but he's seems like he's having a lot of success these days with voiceover roles.
Yeah, his main role back in the day is, I think he was Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was Emmett in the Lego movie.
So that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I do remember those Guardians of the Galaxy movies were pretty awesome, so I can see why he'd be a pretty big deal after, you know, those movies for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, the meme will never leave as well of, I spent hours of my life stopping Koopas.
Yeah, those are some pretty good movies in my opinion. All of them. I haven't watched that Garfield one. That could be, you know, poop for all I know. But the other ones that we all, you know, you listed were pretty good. But yeah, I didn't even specify this at the beginning of the video, but for specification purposes, I'm SpongeBob this episode. He is, that's Raphael, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's Raphael, so I don't know if we're going to change our characters at any kind of point, but, you know, that's probably going to be the rule of thumb we're going forward here, because, I mean, they don't have the Avatar characters in this game, but, I don't know, as weird as it sounds, like, I like Avatar the show better, but I definitely love the characters of SpongeBob better. So yeah, I'm probably always just gonna be SpongeBob. He's my go-to. He's my main here. And I gotta give him credit. I do like the boat design. You know, the cars that they gave him for all the characters. It's a pretty low-budget game. No voice lines or anything either. They couldn't even just throw in ones from like the PS2 era or something like that. But
Actually, I don't think they would have been able to do that with characters like Tommy, because if I remember correctly, one, he wasn't in any standalone games for that era, and two, if they wanted to pull from the original Nicktoon Racing, he didn't even have any voice lines. He just screamed.
that's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's a pretty low-budget game, as you can tell. But I think it was like their first real big attempt at trying to get back into this kind of stuff with like the whole Nicktoons, you know, franchise and stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of good and bad to this game. You know, I think it's a pretty decently solid racer. I think there's a decent variety of like track types, and I like some of the mini games they've added into certain like tracks and stuff. Like some of them, they have you know, like I think after the first lap is where there's a countdown that starts where everybody in last place gets eliminated. So, you know, 10th gets eliminated after like 30 seconds or something, or 20 seconds. Then 9th gets eliminated, 8th gets eliminated, stuff like that, which I think is a really cool mechanic I haven't seen in any other kind of game. I'm sure it exists, but like I think that's a really cool one. There's one where you have to like fall into, you know, certain arrows and stuff like that. Like you have to follow a specific path and be within arrows on tracks. Obviously we have like the regular racing tracks, but we also have like ones like this where it's a little bit different, where you know, you're just kind of driving in straight slime for a lot of these tracks, which I think is kind of cool. Adds a little bit of a different pace to everything. But yeah, as you can see, you know, geez, I don't know why I'm falling back on the names here, you know, but I think that was Leonardo just got eliminated. So I think usually like maybe the top 3 people finish the race, but that's usually about it. And the second one I did play a lot. I haven't really played this one before too much, but The second one definitely added a lot of great things to it. I think the biggest issue in this game for me personally, though, other than like the lack of voice lines, which isn't the biggest deal, but it seems like a lack of, good. Just something that you would expect, considering these are the big characters. But the roster, what is there, like 12 or 16 characters?
Not even that. There's only 10 characters.
Yeah, and I think there's 4 franchises, right? There's Hey Arnold, SpongeBob, TMNT, and what's the fourth one?
Rugrats.
Yeah, Rugrats. So
they don't even got the best Rugrat in here. Chucky's not even playable until the second game.
yeah, so I mean the roster, like you would want to have as many people as you can in these games, because they do have like a lot of obviously it's Nickelodeon, so they have so many different characters and shows they could pull from. But I think it's nowadays especially it's like a big licensing issue. So, but obviously it'd be cool to have SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Fairly Odd Parents, Jimmy Neutron, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, regular original series and all grown up would be kind of cool. Our Real Monsters, Angry Beavers. I'd love it too if there was just like a Drake and Josh character and they shared like the same vehicle or something like that, and every time they went up on a ramp they just kind of like hugged each other as they were going down. That would have been awesome.
I mean, they did randomly have JoJo Siwa in the second game, so I guess anything's possible.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about it, was because I remember me and my my buddy Wham, we played that game, and for the first time when we seen she was in there, I'm like, man, that's so ridiculous. There's no Drake and Josh, but we got JoJo Siwa.
Maybe Drake and Josh isn't hip with the kids anymore.
I mean, is Rugrats though? You know what I mean? Like that was like a '90s show.
I mean, they did get that reboot, I think about 5 years ago.
I get that, but I feel like for the most part, like when it comes to reboots of kids shows, it's like adults wanting to show their kids the show, and I feel like more often, like the people that are more likely to watch it just on their own are gonna be like the adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's also like it's a Ren and Stimpy thing too. They were one of the first 3. They're probably a legacy character at this point.
Yeah, that'd be true.
The only one they can't get in there anymore is I don't know how decisive it is to get Doug's copyright, considering they're owned by Disney now.
Really? What's up with that?
They bought him like sometime after the 3rd season. If I remember correctly, the show went kind of downhill after that.
Sounds about right. But I've never heard of anything like that happening, to be honest. Like, I've heard of some shows going to different networks. Like, I think that's what happened with, like, 16, the old show that was, like, the same art style and made by the same people as Total Drama Island, but I don't know, that's just weird to me. Like, it's usually always, like, the same company that makes it.
Yeah, I think they bought out the animation studio, so yeah, but they can't officially license the Nickelodeon era of the show. I think it's considered 2 separate eras.
That is really weird to me. They're like, licensing is so strange a lot of the time. Like, they had the biggest thing with like the Friday the 13th franchise with that, and that's why they couldn't continue the Friday the 13th game for the longest time. It's so weird.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy also isn't even owned by Nickelodeon anymore. I think it's been owned by MTV for about 30 years.
Really? That's interesting.
I assume what happened is either Nickelodeon didn't want it anymore, MTV took it, or John Crispolucci just left to work on adult party cartoon. The most I really know is that it was owned by MTV at like 96, right when the original show was ending. That's about when it happened.
Yeah, it turned out, what's his name, the guy who did do the animation?
John Chris Falucci.
Yeah, it turned out he's not only just a bad guy in general and like seems like a pedophile even, but like I don't know, it also seems like he's also just blatantly like just not, I don't know, it's crazy to think like Ren and Stimpy, the original series was very popular and so great and stuff like that, but then everything else he's done since then has just been received so poorly. You know, it's interesting to me that that can happen.
Maybe it's like a thing where it was within the constraints of a children's show. You know, maybe it's maybe everything else goes too far.
That's what it seems like what happened with adult party cartoon, yeah. And I don't know, in a way I think that's why I like Avatar The Last Airbender so much, is because it is so simple and stuff, and it's, you know, childish humor and stuff like that, whereas I think that's still kind of the case to the series this day, but I feel like they're trying to get more adult themes in there, if that makes sense.
I understand where you're coming from.
Like, I just feel like the series wouldn't be the same if it was darker and, you know, had more death or blood or something like that. Just, I don't know, I feel like that sometimes that stuff can just be like a crutch when, you know, when you gotta get creative with your storytelling and get some guidelines, you know, to get around. I feel like it can be a lot more creative and stuff like that, you know. But that said, let's see here. Who won? Oh. Alright, well, the day goes to Super Lou 64 for this Grand Prix. So, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out next week's episode on License Thursday, of course. But above all else, though, please remember to have a nice day. Got anything else to say?
Goodbye.